Hello, good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are ready. This is going to be a really good event, and I'm really excited to bring on our guest today. How is everybody doing? How are you guys doing in the challenge? How's your Google reviews going? I noticed some of you guys are posting about your progress, and it's amazing seeing your guys' success and results coming from just the challenge itself. So it's really awesome. Hey, Audra, Kim, I see you. Sarah's like posting all the time. I love it. She's always got something new going on, and it's really exciting to see like the things you do and the actions you take, uh, and with every action you guys take, it brings up some sort of new opportunity. Whether you've learned something or you get a new customer or relationship or business, but really, I think the best thing about doing those kind of things is it helps you in your own confidence, and it kind of spreads to everything else in your life outside of just your business. So I'm very excited for you guys and seeing you guys all grow. Hello, Jason. All right. So I've got something going from me, but yeah, and the thing with SEO, you guys have to remember, so still in the GBP top three. So SEO is a slow game. It's like it's the thing that you do that you build the habit around, and you keep doing that until once you're like 3 months down the road, 4 or 5, 6 months, and then before you know it, your rankings are all the way up. It's like if you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to weigh yourself every day. You kind of want to weigh yourself once a week. You kind of want to check in and make sure things are going in the direction you want it to go, but it's a slow process. We just keep building those habits, keep collecting those reviews, and that'll help you out. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you guys to Miss Jolene Blackbourn. Hello, Jolene.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. Thank you for being here with us. And I so appreciate you agreeing to help us out with this presentation. I think it'll help a lot of the notaries out, and I think that they'll really appreciate this that you're going to be presenting. So I will let you take it away and take it from here.
Awesome. All right. Hi, everybody. So, yes, I am Jolene Blackbourn, and I am an estate planning attorney. So, I'm going to talk about 4 key topics today. The first is just what is an estate plan? I'm going to talk about some documents that oftentimes when I review other attorneys' trusts, I don't oftentimes see. And that way, also, you're better prepared in case you see something you're not familiar with. I'm going to discuss how to do a signing, which covers a lot of the problems I've maybe had with notaries at signings, and then problems you may encounter, and then how to market to an estate planning attorney. So I know that can be a little bit difficult. So we'll cover all that today, and then I'll leave lots of time for Q&A so that you can get all your questions answered. So first, what is an estate plan? What goes into it? It can vary a lot. I do review a lot of other attorneys' trusts. And so the basic document is a trust, and that can be anywhere from a few pages, like maybe 7 pages, to 100 pages. The 100 pages trusts are a little bit overkill. Even the attorneys who offer that admit that. 7 pages is a bit skimpy. You're probably missing some key stuff. Usually they're 20, 30 pages. That's usually the sign of a trust that covers all the good bases. So the trust is just something that helps us avoid probate if you own real estate, which is a court process we want to avoid because it takes time and money. It also helps us distribute our assets more creatively. So if we want to give something to our kids 60-40 instead of 50-50, we can do that. If we want to do it slowly over time, we can do that. If one of our kids is a drug addict, we can put in provisions that they have to test clean, or they only get money for, well, not money, but they get access maybe to food and to shelter, but no actual money unless they're clean for 60 days or something like that. There's a lot that can go into a trust and make it super creative and super specific to whatever the person's situation is. So for a lot of people, the trust is the way to go, whether or not they own real estate, because it really can help with all of life's unexpected issues. The trust also contains usually a declaration of trust. For my trust, that's like a 1-paragraph document, but I've seen trusts that are the reverse. The trust is only a page or 2, and the declaration is really the bulk. Either way is fine. Schedule A is where they list the assets. That is not a notarized document. That's just a document that's attached to the trust, but the declaration and the trust are notarized. Oftentimes, but not always, you'll also see a community property agreement. And that is what helps community property in the state of California or other community property states retain that characteristic that they had before they went into the trust. So some trusts have them, some don't. That is a notarized document as well. And usually it's like a page. So that all is the basis of the trust. There's also a certificate of trust. That is a document that is like a summary of the trust. So if a bank says, I need to see a copy of your trust, they can take that instead of the whole trust. So their trust stays safe at home. The certificate's what goes out into the world, and it's, I don't know, 5 pages or something. That's a notarized document. There are wills. Sometimes people just have wills, and if they have a trust, they have pour-over wills. Pour-over wills basically just say, if I forgot to put something in my trust, my bad, put it in the trust and distribute it however I said in the trust. So this can really protect, again, like those drug addict kids or a special needs kid or something like that, or that 60-40 type distribution. What it can't protect you against is probate. So if you leave a house out of the trust, it has to go through probate and then goes into the trust to be distributed how the trust said. But we always include those pour-over wills. Wills are not notarized documents. Notarizing them does nothing for them. And I will cover with some of the problems that you might encounter, like people asking you to notarize a will in a little bit, what you can say and what you can do on that avenue. My personal software has healthcare powers of attorney witnessed, not notarized, but those are optional. So some softwares have them notarized. It's fine either way. My healthcare or my financial powers of attorney do have notarizations on them. So you'll see it both ways. Either way is fine. And so for those who don't know, healthcare power of attorney allows someone else to make medical decisions on your behalf when you're no longer able to do so. And the financial power of attorney just takes care of those finances when you're no longer able to do so. So it just makes sure you're taken care of at the end stage of life. My documents include a HIPAA waiver. Sometimes I see this, sometimes I don't. This allows somebody today, while I'm still coherent, to go pick up medical records on my behalf or talk to my doctor. If I'm like, I don't get what you're saying, this person can always talk to my doctor, automatic. So that's a notarized document. Deeds are notarized. And you might see different types of documents that move a business into a trust. It's a little bit different for an S corp versus an LLC, but they're basically one-page documents. And what I almost never see anywhere, I offer this, I don't know why other people don't, is powers of attorney for children. And so these also can be notarized or witnessed. And these are like super important because if as a parent you are unavailable for your children for any reason, you are on a vacation, you're on a business trip, you something happened to you and you have brain damage and you need temporary guardians, not permanent ones for when you're gone, right? We all think, oh, when I die, here's who's going to be guardian of my children. We don't think about, wait, what if I don't die? What if I just get in a really bad accident and I'm brain damaged or in a coma? You need a temporary guardian for those kids. And if you don't, CPS can come take them away and put them in the foster system until that is sorted out. Your family members can fight over it until it's sorted out. It's a big problem, but a lot of people don't think about it. They don't know about it. So I'm here to tell you, super important. So even if you have family and friends, honestly, that have an estate plan, tell them to look for that document. If they don't have it, they should get one. But again, that's something that can be witnessed or notarized and maybe offered to you when you're at a trust signing. So all part of the normal process. So all these documents are there just to make sure that life and death are smooth for your family, for your loved ones, for your assets. And you're, again, going to be notarizing different numbers of documents depending on how that trust is set up. So that's the basics of an estate plan. So how do you do the signings? So first of all, I'll tell you some things that have happened with notaries that I didn't love. So first of all, one, you are representing the attorney in their law office. So just make sure that you look clean and professional. It doesn't have to be fancy, but that you're looking good, that you have a smile and you don't appear rushed. For these people, they're literally signing kind of like their lives away, and they might be a little nervous. Some of these people might be older and they just need you to go a little slowly. And I've had notaries where it's like, I got another signing. You have to hurry up, move it. And it's like, whoa, okay, I don't appreciate that with my clients and I'm not going to use you again. So just make sure that you leave that time, especially if the signing is in a nursing home. Those, you just never know how those are going to go. The person can have lots of questions, they can have repetitive questions. They might sign slowly. It might be difficult and painful, so they have to take breaks. Um, I've also had it where somebody was doing better than they had been doing a month or two before. Like they all thought this person was going to pass away, and now they're doing better. So it's like a party, and they're so excited. And I can't get them to focus. I'm like, that's great. I'm so happy you're healthy. Can you sign? Okay, can you sign again? And I'm doing what I can to get this moving. But I've had notaries where they're just really frustrated. And it's like, okay, these family and friends are very excited about their loved one. So you kind of have to go with it. We'll do what we can. So just be aware there's a wide range of circumstances with these trust signings. And you need to kind of be a little bit looser on that timeline sometimes. Um, it's certainly appropriate, though, to go in and let them know, especially if things are dragging out. I do have another signing this afternoon. So I just want to make sure we stay on schedule. Just something very nice. Try to have some phrases ready to go in case you really do kind of have to move them along. Another thing to be concerned about is if they can't really sign, if they just make a mark, make sure you're up on all your rules on what a mark means, what you have to do for that. I've had people who were totally coherent, but were in an accident and paralyzed from the waist or for the neck down. And there was questions on, okay, how can this person sign? They want to sign, but they can't sign. They can't move their hand. So make sure you're up on all your rules on that. So yeah, these are some of the problems I've encountered. I'm trying to think of, I had a list, but where? Oh, yes. When you go alone to a signing, you may have concerns about somebody's competency. So if the family member says, hey, come sign my mom's, power of attorney, she's in the hospital. That's definitely on you to gauge their competency level. If they've been working with an attorney, we've been gauging their competency before we make the documents and before you come to notarize. So a lot of times I'll have clients where they're in just a perfect little situation, that perfect little bubble where they're good to sign, they've agreed to sign. And then the notary shows up and starts explaining what we're going to do and explaining the documents and taking like 10 minutes. And it's like, oh no, this person's very particular and anything can set them off on some kind of crazy half-hour tangent. Like, don't talk to my client. Now, how do you know this? You don't necessarily, but just keep in mind, if the attorney's there, you don't need to be explaining everything. You can explain, hi, this is my notary book. We're going to be signing in here. I'm going to need your thumbprint. Why don't you go ahead and sign that document and I'll get that notarized and we'll get moving or whatever. You can do that, but don't go into, okay, so I see you have this type of document. So I've had them really try to explain the documents. Like, no, I did that. They're my client. Don't worry about it. So one, that gets you out of there faster. But two, you might actually be creating problems where I've got this person in just the right place to sign. And yeah, so you can support the attorney though, because I have had people question, wait, is this going to do this? It's just, and they'll have this crazy question. And I'll be like, no. We talked about this. That's not what this does. It's perfectly fine to support the attorney. No, that's not what this does. No, you're fine. Just don't go into full explanations if the attorney is there or if the attorney has just explained stuff, even if they're not there. So let the attorney do it. That's really our job. We're more than happy to do it. Pass the buck on to us.
Right. And I want to mention here, if I can hop in, Jolene. So
Yeah.
this is, estate plans are quite a bit different from regular loan signing, right? You guys are so used to, hey, this is the settlement statement. This has your breakdown of your fee, and you're kind of helping them through because nobody's there to help the borrowers, right? But for this situation, the attorneys have already explained everything to them. By the time you get there, it's usually, it's ready to go and they just want to sign. So you can simply state the title of the document and you do your normal spiel where you say, hey, I'm a notary. I'm not an attorney. I'm not allowed to explain any of the documents. Here's your power of attorney. Your signature is, your name's here. Your signature goes here. Your date goes here. Then that's it. You leave it at that, right?
Yes.
And especially if an attorney's there, it makes it so much easier because now there's someone there they can defer all the questions to. But you will definitely run into situations where you're going into signings. The attorney's not there because they've already done the explanation ahead of time. And yeah, I wouldn't get too caught up into trying to explain anything because you shouldn't. Remember, we're not attorneys. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, and I've had it and it's just like, no. So yeah, if we're there, absolutely, that should all be given to us. If we're not there, you can pretty much be guaranteed it's been explained before. And usually what I do is if you're working through Notary Pin, I always put in the comments that, everything's been explained. I'll be available by phone. Here's my cell phone if anybody has any questions. And I do that with my direct hires as well. So hopefully most attorneys do that because we usually do meet with our clients the day or two before we send the documents out. And that's another big difference is a lot of times you're not expected to print anything, may or may not be requested to scan things because we're sending our documents to our clients. We're walking our clients through those documents in advance. So we don't need you usually to print those out. We usually have our own binder and everything because it's not loose documents. It's actually like a 3-ring binder or something. So we've sent it all out. As far as on the tail end of it, I either will have the notary scan everything and send it to me or send the whole thing back to me and I will scan it. And part of the reason for that is I need the deed to come back, the original deed, so that I can mail it and send it to the county recorder's office for recording. And so then the original deed comes back to me and then I send the whole thing back to my client. So then they'll have a scan copy, but they'll also have their originals all together. There's a couple different ways I do it, but that's, yeah.
Yeah, and just be aware, this is Jolene's process. So every attorney works differently.
Right.
So they all work very differently. Their documents are different. Some of them have some documents, some don't have that document. Like I have an attorney who does the Advanced Healthcare Directive and a medical power of attorney in California. It's not necessary, but that's how she wants to do it. So, and it's just kind of familiarizing yourself with that. And it's the estate planning stuff. It seems like it can be a scary thing, right? But if you just stick to the basics of, you let the attorney do their thing, they're not expecting you to know, the contents of the document. They just want you to understand that, hey, these are important documents that it's hard to have this conversation because you're talking about death. You're talking about, some signers will get emotional as they're going through the signing. And so for these situations, you just kind of have to have that situational awareness and that empathy and know that that's going to be the most important thing there.
Yeah. And yeah, I would say there's 3 ways that I end up wrapping up the signing, which is 1, either I ask the notary to put the whole thing into a UPS box and send it back to me. 2, to scan it on the spot. And then if I need that deed, I usually will send a return address self-stamped envelope and I'll say, please send me the original deed. And I rely on the notary because it doesn't matter how type A my client might be, how on top of things they are. It's not their job. So a lot of times they'll put it off. They'll forget about it. They'll make a mistake, whatever. Whereas the notaries usually are pretty used to the scanning. They're pretty used to like, okay, you want me to mail this thing. So I know what the deed is, and I do leave, and hopefully every attorney does this, but not necessarily, detailed instructions on, okay, I need the deed and the preliminary change of ownership report put into the self-addressed stamped envelope and mailed back to me. So if you're ever unclear, always ask the attorney because again, there are so many different ways we might wrap that up. So again, mailing it all back to me, just scanning it and sending me maybe nothing if there's no deed, or just sending me that deed in the mail are the 3 different ways that, as far as I know, could be pretty much wrapped up. Just always ask the attorneys. Some attorneys are very particular. They'll give you detailed instructions. Another thing I do, which I don't know that a lot of attorneys do this, and I don't do it every time because I'm not perfect, but I try, is I will make a list of the documents you're going to be notarizing, and then how many signatures. So the trust, 2 signatures. The financial power of attorney, 1 signature, 2 documents. So that way, there's 2 financial powers of attorney with 1 signature each. And I'll list them all, and then I'll tally the signatures. So there should be a total of 16 signatures. And so that way you can check your book and make sure, do I have 16 signatures? Do I have this many documents? Does it actually match? And if it doesn't, what's wrong? Did I miss something, or did the attorney mess up on this list? Who knows? But I actually had an attorney come out. It was actually for my next door neighbor. And the neighbor was like, "Oh, this thing is wrong," or "I want to change it," or whatever it was. And it was just on page 1 of like the power of attorney. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to run next door and print out the page 1 again. I'll be right back." And I told the notary, "You can notarize the other documents. If you feel comfortable, go ahead and notarize this document as well, because I'll be back in 5 minutes." So I came back. I assumed it was all done because I had given her that list of documents as well as how many signatures. And she took off, and I grabbed the packet and I went to scan it, and she had not notarized one of the documents. And I asked her, I said, "What happened?" It was only like 3 documents. And so with 1 signature each. It was not complicated. And and of course it's my bad too. I didn't double check her work, but I just assumed while I was gone they did it, because when I came back they said they did it all. And so I should have double checked. But she just said, "Oh, I just assumed that you just kind of took one out." And I'm like, "Okay. Well, we should have talked about that." So, yeah, always ask. Don't be afraid, because obviously we're not going to be happy if something gets messed up and we have to go back to our client or inconvenience our client, versus that you asked, right? So don't be afraid to ask. And I will say that for most of my clients, and again, I can't control other people's clients, we used to call them signing parties. People were actually happy to sign their estate plan because they felt like, "I am so relieved. There's a weight off my chest that I didn't even know I was carrying." So I always try to make it a very positive experience and a happy experience, like, "Yay, you can die now," and we kind of joke about it and stuff like that. So obviously read the room. You don't want to make death jokes if, it's not appropriate, but it's a lot of my clients have, we laugh when we talk and stuff like that. So, and a lot of them do say like, "I wasn't expecting to laugh so much." So yeah, so keep it in mind. There's all different types of vibes. Just make sure you're reading that room. Okay. So yeah, so those are the main problems I've had, is just people not double checking their work, to make sure all the signatures were done. Um, that kind of thing, or just again setting off the wrong vibe, being a little rude or hasty with my clients. Um, let's see, the problems you may encounter. I think we kind of covered that too. It's kind of a blended situation where, again, it might be confusing, as to what we want. If we aren't clear, again, ask. Because it isn't, the loan signings I feel like are very formulaic, but with us, it's a little bit more, what do we want? And so it can be confusing. And some attorneys are not very approachable. I fully admit it. So yeah, it can be hard to ask those questions, but you got to ask them, because if you miss something, then you might be going out for free because you kind of messed up, if the instructions especially were quote unquote clear. So yeah, we want to make sure everything's done, especially too, sometimes my clients are dying. We don't get a part 2. We don't get a second chance. I've had several clients die within a week or 2 of the signing, sometimes within days. And all those people, yeah, they weren't doing well, but they were not expected to die in that week or 2. It was a bit of a shock. And some of them died from things that weren't the health problems that caused them to call me in the first place. Like, they had cancer. The cancer was going okay though. And then they just had some random like problem, and the doctors couldn't figure it out fast enough, like just random stuff. So be very aware that you need to get it right today, because we may not have tomorrow in our situation, because it's not your 30, 40, 50-year-old signing a loan doc. It is, sometimes older people who are having serious health problems. So let's see. You may also, like I said, encounter people who just are not coherent, and especially if we're not there, it might be difficult. If you really are uncomfortable, again, call us, and we may say, "Yeah, today's not the day. We'll have to try another day." Don't worry if, for example, daughter is there saying, "Oh, mom attacks me and hits me because her dementia is so bad." If mom is looking coherent and acting coherent at signing, we are good. If the attorney has vouched for them, we're good. You don't need to worry about background stories. Believe me, I've listened to a lot of continuing education on this. It doesn't matter what's going on in the background. If the person understands the document and can sign it, we can do it. So there's no legal liability if they happen to have, bad fits at nighttime or whatever. That's not information that impacts the signing. Again, when you're on your own, that's your own thing, your own judgment call. But when you're, going to my clients, you should be calling to just double check, hey, she's running around naked. Okay, maybe we won't do the signing right now. It's okay. Come back another day. So yeah, just check in. So yeah, let's go on to marketing because this is difficult. There's multiple problems with marketing to an estate planning attorney. First of all, okay, we're good at networking, but we're not necessarily good at entrepreneurship. That's changing over time, but the younger attorneys are being trained more. They're more exposed to, influencers and things like that. But especially the older the person, the less they understand entrepreneurship. We're not trained how to open a law office or run it or anything like that. So if you say something like, that was great, I loved working with you, let's do it again, or I'd love to work with you again, that means absolutely nothing to us. Okay. That is like, that was great, have a nice day. That's it. That's what we hear. Okay. What we need to hear, first of all, most attorneys, regardless of where they ended up, went to law school to help people. So if you say that you need help, we're listening. So that was great. That went really well, whatever, some nice thing. I'm really trying to grow my business. It would really help me if you would use me in the future. And then here's the thing. A lot of us also have our own limiting mindset. Oh, well, this signing was in Santa Monica. You must only do the Santa Monica area. You must only do the West Side. When in fact, you actually cover all of LA and Orange County, or you even have a little business partner and that's how you cover LA and Orange County, right? Okay. I don't know, but in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, next time I'm in Santa Monica, sure, and I'm not going to call you again because I'm never in Santa Monica. Okay. And actually you happen to live, elsewhere, right? You're down in Long Beach or I don't know, further or whatever. And so, and then I'm always in Long Beach. So wait, I've been trying to figure out who to call because I thought you weren't here. So make sure we also understand I travel all over LA County, or I travel in these 3 counties, or whatever you do, make sure we know. If you only work nights and weekends, tell us. I only work nights and weekends, but I travel just about anywhere, or whatever the thing is, so that we keep in mind, because we might think, oh gosh, it's really late. I don't want to call her. Let us know what your kind of deal is so that we have a better picture. When I first was practicing, I was doing a lot of depositions. I had a court reporter literally say to me, that was great. I'd love working with you again. You should request me. I was like, okay. And I walked away again, thinking it was just have a nice day. We worked together again. She was like, you should really request me. It'd be great to work together. Now, I cannot tell you how much this woman saved my life, not just professionally, but also personally over the next, 15, 20 years. She's like a part of my family. And she has saved me in personal emergencies as well as professional. She is amazing. And all because she asked a second time. But I didn't get it that first time. So you have to be very clear. The second time she asked, I was like, oh, she means that. It just dawned on me. We're not going to get it. So you have to say, I need your help. I'm trying to grow my business. I go all over LA. I work night or day, weekends too. I'm happy to do whatever you need. Just let me know. Now, as far as going into an estate planning office, so let's just say you don't meet them at a signing, but they have an office. They probably have an on-staff notary. So you're probably not going to get that business. But if you want to spend the time doing it, what I would recommend you do is go in and say, do you guys have an on-staff notary? And a lot of times they're going to say yes. And say, would you mind keeping my card in case there's an emergency and your notary is sick that day? So again, you may never get a call. It might be super rare. Or, hey, if you don't want your in-house notary to go to a nursing home signing, I'm happy to fill in that spot. So those are the 2 reasons they might call you. Most of the time when I've worked in offices, they just reschedule the signings if the notary is sick. But hey, the client's going to Europe and they want it now and the notary is sick. What are we going to do? Oh, we have this person's business card. Let's call them. So I still call that really slim, but if you want to try it, go for it. I think that's the best way. And again, I would still use I'm really trying to grow my business. This would be very helpful to me. Again, help. That's the word. Okay. Help me, because we all want to help people. I think that's really honestly the two ways: at the signing or going in their office. It's really hard with us. We're dense and we're just,
Too
yeah.
much knowledge in that brain. It's just
Yeah, it's hard. So yeah, and I mentioned too, I forgot about the wills. I'm going to go back a moment with a problem with
okay.
wills.
Yes.
If somebody asks you to notarize a will, you're allowed to. It just doesn't do anything. The will is not effective unless there's 2 witness signatures. So the will is invalid. You didn't invalidate it by notarizing it, but you didn't help it either. So what I would say, because you're not allowed to give legal advice, but you have this fact, you're not, like, this isn't the thing to do. So what you can say is, I heard an attorney say, because I'm going to say it right now. Okay. I heard an attorney say that you have to have witness signatures on a will for it to be effective, that the notary signature does nothing. So you might want to go look that up. So you're not practicing law at all. You're not giving legal advice. I mean, you kind of are, but you're not, because all you're saying is what you heard me say. I heard an attorney give a speech, and she said that without 2 witness signatures, the will is invalid. So you might want to double check that. So yeah, because I see that a lot.
And I would definitely check with your states. I know that some states, it invalidates the document, even if there's witnesses and it gets notarized.
Yeah, so, sorry, I'm talking California, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. So depending on where you are, if there's a notary stamp on the will, it actually doesn't make it work at all. So just be careful. But thank you. That was amazing information there.
Yeah, and the same, I'll back up and say the same is true for deeds and things like that. Depending on your state, some deeds want them witnessed. And again, anything I said was California law, just to be clear. So yes. So I think that's, what I was going to say. So I would love to answer questions so we get some of those answered. And hopefully, if you guys have had problems in the past, I can help solve them.
Yeah, let me add, and Yuki's here too. I'm going to add him. So Yuki is my marketing manager, and he's part of this group.
Hey, Jolene.
And we're actually sitting right next to each other.
There we are. Jonathan's at my place. He made it.
But I think that was super helpful. There was stuff in there that I didn't even think of and realize. And you're right, because when I think of walking into an estate planning office with the in-house notaries, I'm like, even if they have an in-house, they may not be. They need someone who goes mobile, right? Or if the in-house notaries are usually the paralegals, and it's like, are they gonna have time to? But the fact that estate plans are not oftentimes a rush, that they can easily just reschedule, then yeah, that totally makes sense. They can just reschedule. And I never thought of that. Where with loan signings, everything is urgent. Everything needs to have been signed yesterday. So
yeah, we always say nobody's dying today. Now that's not always true, but in general, that's kind of how it goes, right? We're supposed to be making these estate plans while we're still alive, and even if we're unhealthy, again, the chances of us dying in the next week are slim. It can happen, but that rescheduling doesn't usually seem to be a big deal. So yeah, so that's what makes it really hard to get into the firms.
That makes sense. And that's, and for us as Notary Pin, actually, we have very few big firms. It's mainly who are smaller attorneys, and they're solo operating their firms, or maybe have one assistant, right? And they're kind of doing everything. And a lot of them don't have a physical office because they don't want to pay for that expense.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to have a mobile notary who will go around and do stuff for you.
That's what I do. So yes. Yeah. And I see Jason's question there. So how much do I pay? So it does vary. And it varies on a lot of different factors. So, I use independent notaries, so then they set different fees. I definitely have a range though, and I do have a limit. So I may not use somebody a lot if they're charging a lot. I had a girl one time, I think it was a total of 6 signatures, a husband and wife. And she wanted to charge me. I said, how much do you charge for that? And she said $450. And I was like, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to count that up, and that's not mathing. And so like, I'm like, was that a typo? Did she mean like 45? Because honestly, I'm gonna pay her more than that because that's too low. But I was like, I thought maybe she was like trying to give me a deal or something, and she just had a typo. That I was like, that seems way more logical than 450. So I was like, how do I ask? And then finally I was just like, I just have to ask. So I'm like, was that a typo? And she goes, oh, is that too much? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because usually a single person trust, it can vary, but it's somewhere between 100, maybe 150, somewhere in that range. A two-person trust, somewhere in the 200 range is usually kind of what I'm seeing. And then obviously these like two signature things are all over the place because, travel fees and whatever. So I think a lot of times I get charged somewhere around $75 for that. So for this, I was thinking like 90 maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so we came to an agreement, but and then I also happened to catch her in some lies while we were at the signing. So I was like, okay, I'm never using you again. Yeah, so just be very careful too. We have very analytical brains. We spent 3 years learning how to analyze like a psychiatrist what everyone's saying. Don't lie to us. Don't lie. We tear apart everything you say. It's horrible. We're not trying to, but it happens. Yeah, I think she told me, what was it? She wanted to do the signing earlier because she had some other signings. But these were old people. The guy just had a stroke. I was like, I'll ask, but I don't think they can wake up any earlier. And sure enough, they said no. So I said, no, we got to keep it at the time. And then I always make it efficient for my notaries. I explain everything before the notary gets there so they can just come in, sign, and leave. And so when she was done, I was like, oh, you're free. We're good. Like I'm chatting with this couple, but, because they're like 80 and want to chat, but you don't have to hang out. And she was like, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm like, well, what about your other signings? She's like, oh, I already took care of them. The signing was at 10 a.m. I'm like, wait, so you did 2 other signings? You told me you had 2 before 10 a.m. And she texted me at like 9 or 9:30 that she'd arrived at the house already. Like she had gotten there super early. So you did them both before 9 a.m.? I don't think so. So yeah, it was just really weird stuff. So be very careful what you say to us because we're taking notes. We don't mean to. It just is our training. Other questions?
Sorry, my my Chrome closed out right when it happened. But
Nice.
that's good. So I've got a question here. Do you prefer black or blue ink?
I prefer blue. I like to know without a shadow of a doubt that that's an original document. So I always, and I don't know if you guys do this, but if you don't, it's something you should do. I always carry thick pins, not the little big ones, but the thicker ones, because a lot of my clients are 70, 80, they can't grip a little pin. So, for younger people, we don't care, but we can grip either. It's fine. So the big one's not a problem for anyone. So yeah, I always have thick pens.
Yeah, from my experience with the estate plan signings, a lot of them prefer blue. I would say they don't all, though some will say it doesn't matter, black or blue, so it really is just the preference of the attorney. So
Yeah.
always ask, hey, do you prefer blue or black ink? What can I bring to the appointment? So, and as Jolene mentioned, it is with these because sometimes the attorneys don't scan the documents after. And so nobody's doing a review after your notarization. So you really want to double check that you're signing everything is dated correctly. There's been situations where exactly what Jolene was saying, where a person is nearing end of life, they signed a deed, something got messed up and they passed away, and now they have to find a workaround or something to try to get that to work. And I've heard of there's ways, but it's a big hoop to jump through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely double check after. So this is a good question. Approximately how many estate signings do you have a month?
Yeah, it's on average for a full trust, it's usually like 2. I'm a small mom and pop, it's just mom. Shop. But yeah, so like 2, and then I usually have a couple of little things, like a little power of attorney or a little update or something like that. So So something like approximately 3, I would say, a month.
And how many pages would you estimate are in your estate plans?
So for the actual trust part, that's somewhere around 30. And then my powers of attorney are somewhere around 10 each. And there's a couple, miscellaneous other little documents. So I mean, I think when I print it out, it's something like 125 pages.
Okay. Yeah. And that totally ranges, guys. So it could be, I've seen some that are less than 100, and then I've seen some that are like 250 plus.
Yeah.
And it really just depends. And they could have multiple trusts in that one signing. And then it
Yeah.
adds to that, right? So
That adds, if I'm doing a special needs trust as a subpart of that trust, if
Mhm.
I'm doing a pet trust as a subpart of that trust, there's a lot of different things that can add on to that. And then, yeah, the software you use makes a big difference. So, yeah, so one of my colleagues who uses a bigger software, like one that's like 100 pages, I've asked her, what's in there? Because seriously, mine covers it like all. And she's like, yeah, there's stuff about like farms. I'm like, okay, we're in
Yeah.
LA. Like, we don't need anything about farms. Like, she's like, yeah. So, she even admits, yeah, it's kind of silly. So, that more doesn't mean better. It doesn't mean worse either, though. But it's, and that's on that person with, so, but as long as it's not a few pages, because then you really are going to be missing. Of course, that's not your responsibility. But if you're getting a trust, it should not be a few pages. It should be honestly at least, I would say 15 pages. But again, that's California. Some other states may have less issues going on and stuff like that. And I know some states' wills are fine. They don't even really need a trust because their probate process is not that bad. So keep that in mind too. Okay, so when marketing, what would you do if there is a sign outside that says no soliciting? Yeah, I don't think I would go in. I don't know. Yeah, that's like
I'd be the opposite. I would still do it. I
would
would just
you?
say, oh, I didn't see the sign. I missed it. Sorry, totally.
Yeah, I'm like, it's borderline just because you're not selling anything. You are just saying, look, I'm here for you as a backup. So you're not even trying to necessarily promote yourself at all, really, or as a primary thing. Um, so if you're comfortable with it, you could try it, but I think I would just personally skip it because you're already fighting an uphill battle of I just don't think they're going to consider you very much. You're already
Hmm.
struggling. Yeah. We're a horrible bunch to market to. I'm so sorry.
Well, honestly, attorneys get marketed to a lot with a bunch of different. They're getting calls all the time about softwares and like, hey, my marketing agency, hey, this.
Yeah.
And so they are getting marketed to a lot in terms of that type of office.
Yeah.
But when you have a warm intro, it's so much easier because you guys, and this is something a lot of you guys don't know, but attorneys work off of referrals. It's such a referral-based business. That's how they're getting a business a lot of times. And Jolene, if you can confirm for me, is it true that you're not allowed to actually sell as an attorney?
Yeah, we have to be very careful. So yeah, we cannot, solicit to people who clearly like are in nursing homes, for example. We cannot, also we cannot share a referral fee with non-attorneys. So if you guys give us business, we cannot give you a referral fee, which can be a little bit limiting. I've created a system where if notaries send me a client and they actually retain me, I guarantee that notary, you'll get that signing. So like if they're at a loan signing, for example, and they're like, hey, so congrats on buying this house. Like, do you have a trust? Are you going to put it in a trust? Like, do you know an attorney? I know an attorney. Great. And then they hire me. I'll send you right back. So it's kind of a referral because you're making money for yourself there. So, I mean,
But
that's
you're
the best
providing
I
the
can do.
service, so you're actually not getting a referral. You're actually
Yeah.
getting paid for the loans or for the estate plan signing.
Yeah. So
I
that's the
like
best I can do. That's the best I've been able to come up with because really it's
Only in
it's
that
a
case
little
will
bit
it be
limiting.
$450.
Yeah, is that a $450 signing at that point?
I know. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Jokes,
And
jokes.
that's the thing, right? Is if you also want to work with somebody again, you got to be aware of, I know people who go into a nursing home, they were called, mom's dying, we need this healthcare power of attorney, and it's on the spot, and you're going there emergency basis. And I've heard people charge for that one signature, they charge $400. I think it's a little bit price gouging, just gonna say that. But you do you. Okay, fine. But if you're doing that with me and you're trying to create a relationship with me, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
That is not gonna encourage me to work with you again. So keep that in mind. There's two different mindsets that are going on there. So and yeah, so Leah, let's see. So what's something
That's a
extra we
good
can do?
question.
So yeah, one, first of all, those referrals are always appreciated. So two is just, just being super on time, being super like making sure you're communicating like I'm on my way, or even if you're running 10 minutes late, I'm just sorry I'm running 10 minutes late, whatever, just letting us know. I had a notary in my neighborhood here, so I could use him a lot. And he was, gosh, what was I warned him. I said, this is a very sensitive situation. The husband is bipolar. He is not on meds. His wife is dying. They've been married since the 70s, and he is a train wreck. He is ready to take everyone down. So I need you to just be very like, get in here, be silent as a mouse, do your job and leave. Like, I warned him, right? And and so we had a time frame between 1 and 3, and everyone agreed that's fine. We're flexible. We're just going to be hanging out. Um, and then he decided, the husband, I need a time. I need a time. So I called the notary back and I said, can you give me a more finite time? And so he said, fine, 2:00. Great, cool. We'll be there at 2:00. He showed up at 3:00.
Oh.
Now, originally we said 1 to 3. That would have been fine, but he changed it to 2. I mean, I know he was trying to accommodate us, but still, he never called. He didn't tell me, hey, I'm running late. I mean, oh my God, that signing was horrible. The guy was screaming and yelling the whole time the notary's trying to do his job. And the notary didn't even really apologize. He was just like, he kind of was like, sorry, my last one ran late. And that was all we kind of heard about it. There were no updates, even though he had my cell phone and everything. And then I was like, okay, well, he's not really being super apologetic. Maybe he'll just give me a discount, right? Like, no discount. Like, what I mean? It was just like, okay, you have 0 bonus points right now. So yeah, be very aware of the situation. If they've given you warning, that's one thing. But I love it when my notaries, confirm, or call to even ask the smallest of questions, because I know they've seen the stuff and I know that they're on it. A text is fine too. But yeah, the whole ETA, like, traffic 10 minutes late. Cool. I don't care if you're late. I just care what's going on.
Right.
So I think that's the best thing. It's just that communication.
That's great. So there's one. So we answered this one. Do you provide a notary partner?
Not allowed.
Which we know we can't do that now. So that's.
Yes.
But they can put you on as a signing. That's a really good way to, like, if you're doing loan signings, obviously you're seeing if it's going in a trust or not.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, I noticed, have you thought about creating a trust? I see you've got a kid here, and you've got, like, is that something you guys thought about? You're like,
all the factors. Yeah.
And actually, Will, he's not, you've met Will, but Will does that actually, and he's gotten some referrals that way.
Yeah.
And he'll bring it to the attorney. He's like, hey, I've got this lead for you. All you do, if you can just put me on as the notary, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Perfect. So good. I love that. Is it more convenient for you if the notary just has a flat fee?
So you mean just like every single person trust is one, and then every single 2-person trust is one? Yeah, I mean, I try to establish that if I work with somebody more than once, so that we kind of know what we're going into. And usually what'll happen is, let's just say there's a handful of extra documents for whatever reason. Let's say the person has 3 properties and a business. So normally my trust includes 1 deed and that's it. So now we've got, these 3 extra things that need to be notarized. So I'll let them know, like, hey, there's going to be 3 extra documents. So as in, go ahead and quote me a new price. So let's just say for a 2-person trust, we normally do 200. Okay, so now we've got 3 extra signatures, and on 2 of them, we need 2 signatures, right? So it's like 5 signatures. Okay, whatever, 225, whatever you want to do. But like, yeah, so that's how I price my stuff. All my documents have their own prices. And so the trust package has one price, but I can actually tear it apart and every single document. So if somebody's like, I don't need the deed. Okay, I'll give you a little discount then. It's not really a discount. I'm just taking out that price of that deed. And So everything is broken down. If people just need one document, I just need a power of attorney, that's the price because it's pulled out from my package price. So same thing. I feel like if my notaries are kind of working on a similar structure, it makes it more predictable for me. And I feel better because it's just easier. That's why I do it for my clients. It's easier. Like we can wrap our brain around, this is it. If you tell me you have more assets that you forgot about, it might be a little bit more, but this is it. You're not going to, and for my clients, I tell them, this is your fee. It includes recording fees, notary fees. You're not paying any extra fees. This is it. Because a lot of attorneys, they say, oh, your trust is whatever, I don't know, 3,000. And they don't tell them, oh, but you still have to pay the notary and the recording fees. And it's like, okay, so, that may not be so much, but to me, it feels nickel and diming. So
Yeah.
I like to just give them one price. So if I have a kind of set fee with my notaries, I like that. It's a little more predictable. It makes things a little easier on my end too. So so I do like it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention. I would definitely try to create a flat fee around estate plan signings. And then that way, because they want to communicate that to their clients, Jolene will usually cover the cost of it, right?
Yeah.
Other attorneys will want to pass the costs on to their clients, and they'll say, hey, I can send a mobile notary to you. This is how much it will cost. So if you have those flat fees, it's so much easier for those attorneys to basically sell you, right? But if you're saying, well, I got to figure out if the notary can drive that far, so I don't know what the quote is. And then it just makes it super inconvenient. So definitely try to create flat fees around those.
Yeah. And I will say too, travel fees obviously you're totally entitled to them. When I work with a notary that literally I know lives like around the block from me, we better be talking like a really small travel fee here because, I've had people charge me a lot for like, okay, it's 2 signatures, you live around the block, type of thing. And so I know you're not making a lot of money, but you're spending no time because I don't make you sit through my explanation of documents. I've already explained them. You're just literally coming in, maybe one person, 2 signatures. So, I'm hoping that obviously I pay you better on the trust signings. And this is just the little like favor thing. Again, not that I want you to undercharge, but if you're charging me $75 for a travel fee when I know you live in the neighborhood, I'm not thrilled. So I much rather just drive my client, throw them in my car and be like, we're going to UPS.
We're going to drive.
It's 2 signatures. Come on. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
Stephanie, here's the next question. Okay. If the notary ever needs to print the trust or documents, do you prefer a certain weight of paper?
It's funny. I've played around with this, and I've changed my thoughts on this over time. So I've used just copy paper before. Nobody complains, so it's not really that big a deal. So I would just say if you're doing it, just do whatever. Don't worry about it. But right now, I do use a slightly better quality of paper, and I do like it a little better, but it's, nobody has ever said anything about the quality of the paper. So,
and again, that all depends on the attorney. And if the main reason they wouldn't want you to print is because they are sticklers about the quality of paper they use.
Right.
So they wouldn't even ask you to go get like a certain type.
I used to use this like tan colored paper, but it was like if there was ever a problem, you can't just print on the spot. Like you have to print from my place, and or I'd have to take paper around with me or something. I don't know. So it's like now if there's ever some like quick fix that we need, sometimes if my client has a printer, I'll just send them like, okay, print it. And so it more or less matches, right? Because white paper is kind of white paper. But yeah, so to me, I feel like less stress these days doing it that way. But yeah, so yeah, I don't care. Other attorneys may care.
So
go for it, Johnny.
I think this one's a good question here. So we've been telling a lot of the notaries to ask reviews from signings, right?
Yeah.
So Cynthia wants to know, can we ask for clients for a review?
Yeah. And you know what? It does not hurt at all if you're like, it would really help my business if you would leave me a review. And you know what? Don't forget to leave one for the attorney too.
Yeah. This is amazing, right? So, and there's a common theme here. When we teach you guys how to collect reviews, we say the same thing. Hey, it helps me out a ton if you leave a review for my business page, because it's human nature for people to want to help,
Yes.
and we attorneys go into be lawyers because they want to help. I was going to go into healthcare because I just wanted to help people, but then I realized healthcare was not the way I wanted to help people. I'm helping you guys right now, and it's helping people is just the fulfilling thing that we all inherently want to do. And
Yeah.
so you can leverage that. Obviously, they want to help you, especially if it's something as small as taking 2 minutes to twiddle their thumbs and leave something for you, right? But
Yeah.
you have to make it really easy for them to do that, and they'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, and if like going to the question that was earlier, how can you help the attorney? You can always, when you're done, right, and you send the follow-up email or text saying, hey, the trust signing's done, everything's been scanned, or whatever it is that you need to say, you can say, I asked them to give you a review. Now, whether they ever do, doesn't matter. Bonus points for you. I like you now, right? So that's another way that you can stick out in my mind of like, oh my God, I love that person. So yeah.
Of course. And it's just going to help their business, right?
Yeah.
So if you're adding value to the attorney, they're like, wow, this notary goes out and asks reviews from my clients for me. I don't have to do that part. That's amazing. I'm going to use this notary every time.
Yeah. And especially, if they don't leave the review for me, then when I get around to, okay, your deed's been recorded, everything's protected, we're all good. Here's your originals. Don't forget to leave me a review. Well, now that's time number 2, right? So it's again, getting in there, like do it, right? So every time, every touch point helps. So yeah, big bonus points for that.
So I want to answer this question here, Jason. So I'm actually going to say that you should be determining your flat fees, right? This is your business. You have to determine your prices, and it can be just by trial and error. When I started it, my initial mobile notary fee was like $25, $35, and I kind of quickly realized, oh, I'm charging too little. So it's just through that trial and error, and it's going to be based on you. Sometimes I'll even flex where if it's an attorney I want to build a relationship, I'll give them a better price on something. It's like, hey, this is your first one. Let me give you a discount on this. You can see how I work with you, and you give a chance to wow them. So it's all up to you. It's your business.
I think actually to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
To add to that too, I kind of mentioned, if you happen to know, if you told me that you live around the block, right?
Yeah.
So your flat fee needs to be accommodating to my mindset of like, I wasn't expecting to be charged $200 for 2 signatures. I didn't even ask you what your fee was because I just assumed you're coming around the block to do 2 signatures, that it wouldn't be $200, right? So what do you think the other person would expect? Even if you have a full trust signing or something like that, again, how long does that normally take? How many people is it? All that kind of stuff kind of, I think, goes into it. And the more you do it, you know that, especially the more you work with this particular person, you know how long they tend to take. Okay, that person's so fast that I can get out of there really quickly. So I might lower my flat rate for that person versus that person always talks forever and I can't ever get out of there. And so I'm going to up my flat rate a little bit. So I think it also fluctuates.
So let's see. This is interesting, but do you prefer 3-hole punch?
For the like the trust documents? It's funny because I think I've only seen, it's rare that I see a trust that isn't 3-hole punched. I've seen them. They're in the little pocket things. And then those are 3-hole, have the 3 holes. Mine are 3-hole punched. I think I've always done it that way. So yeah, absolutely. That's what I do.
And I wouldn't 3-hole punch it for the attorney unless they say if it's, I would just leave it and let them do it because they might not want you to. But yeah. Let's see.
Quick shout out to Dawn. I was waiting for this. Bling evening.
Yeah. So Dawn is a frequent member of the group. In the
Kayla,
streams.
Shout out Anderson. Talked to Kayla last week. I know they're friends. Good to see you too.
All right. It says what if they are a different location time? Not sure what this means. You must have been mentioning this as we were talking about.
It's another dimension. Different location time.
I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Kayla, if you can elaborate on that.
Print on paper. How to mark it by email or in person. Also, how to find attorneys beside on Google. That's like. I guess she's asking Jolene if it's better to market to you by email or to come in person to your office and talk to you.
Oh, yeah. So for me personally, I practice virtually. So I don't even have an office. So you're not coming into my office. Yeah, I think email is best. We're busy, and so I think that a lot of us now again, well, see, you might be actually marketing to the office staff, right? The ones taking care of the attorney. So like, hey, are one of you guys the notary? Can I be your backup? Blah, blah, blah. If you're actually trying to talk to the attorney though, then yeah, I think email is better. And it's just a matter of, how good they are at checking their email or whether they actually care enough to get back to you. But because all of them are a little bit different. Also, keep in mind too that a lot of estate planning attorneys do 2 areas of law. So a lot of us are not necessarily 100% focused on estate planning, which can impact also how much business you can get from us. So a lot of attorneys will do something like that's very similar, like business formation or family law. I used to work for a guy who also did landlord tenant, partly because he owned an apartment building, but also partly because it's real estate related. And so we're dealing with real estate stuff. So just a little FYI. Let's see. Okay. How to find estate attorneys besides on Google. Well, I'm on Instagram. So, and that's becoming more and more popular. I'm actually.
What is that? Could you spell that? What was it called?
What, Instagram?
Oh, Instagram. I thought it was like a website for attorneys that you said. I didn't realize you said Instagram.
Oh, you know what? Now that you say that though, there is a website called AVVO, AVVO.
I've heard of this.
And that is an attorney website. It's kind of like our own, I guess, LinkedIn or something. I don't know. You can ask the attorneys questions. You'll get answers from attorneys. You can look at their profiles. And so you could actually maybe market that way. I'm not on there a lot, so I'm not sure about the direct messaging, soliciting kind of thing. But Instagram is another way to start following them, connecting with them, and then maybe seeing if they need help. The hard part about Instagram, though, is sometimes it takes a moment to figure out what state they're in and stuff like that. So, but I follow a few other estate planning attorneys throughout the U.S. and even just sometimes following for the information, for the gems that they share, can help your notary business. So,
yeah, that's a really good question. I like that one.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Are living trusts predominantly the same context state to state? Is there a difference?
Yeah, so only 13 states are community property states. And so that makes a difference, a big, big difference in how real estate is handled and that kind of stuff and how trusts are drafted. So those 13 states are very different for that reason. Then, so the federal estate tax is at about $13,000 per person. 13 million per person. Different number. The states also can charge an estate tax. California doesn't have one. It's like the one thing they don't tax on. So we can die and be billionaires and California will not take a cent. But that's very different in states like New York and other places. So again, those trusts will be drafted differently to match the estate taxes that person would be charged in that state. So there's definitely different types of trusts to protect against taxes. In California, we usually don't have to do them because most of us don't have 13 million. And that's if you're single. If you're double, you get to have like 25 million. So most of us are not there. So most of us don't need that type of trust. But in other states, they need it. So because maybe their state tax is 1 million or something like that.
Awesome. Are there organizations that attorney network with that we could join also or attend?
Interesting. So we tend to join the state bar associations, but that's only attorneys. I belong to BNI, which is a Business Networking International. You guys are all welcome to come be visitors. Jonathan was a visitor. Or was it Will? Or it was both of you. You came for like a minute, I think. Right, Jonathan?
I'm sorry. I came from a what? My audio.
You came to my business networking, my BNI group. But I think you only came for like a minute. I think it was Will that stayed the whole time.
I think it was Will that went because I actually went to I went to Crystal Juga. I don't know if you know her. She's out in New York.
Okay, no.
So I woke up at 4 a.m. California time to join her BNI because they started at 7. So dedication right there, because I wanted her as a client. She wasn't a client yet. So
I think that's more like insanity, but okay. So so you can join different business networking groups like BNI, provisors, teams. There's a bunch of those, and attorneys tend to be in there. And again, you're always welcome to visit my BNI chapter if you're in California, especially Southern California. And then where else do we hang out? LinkedIn, Facebook groups, stuff like that.
That's. Do you guys ever go to like Chamber of Commerce?
Chamber of Commerce, that's another one. Sorry, I don't do it, so it wasn't on my head. But yes,
right.
I probably should. Alignable too. A lot of them are on Alignable.
Alignable, yes, I've heard of that one too.
Yeah.
Okay. Anthony asks, if you have a regular rotation of notaries, what is something that a notary new to you could say or do that to get the first signing with you? Interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm always loving when people offer to scan documents because not everyone does. So that's a bonus point. If you speak Spanish, I don't need it very often, but that's bonus points. I just had one this week, sent out my Spanish speaking notary. What else? I think just in general offering, like, what do you need? I'm happy to accommodate. Just let me know. I'm really trying to, again, get that help, right? Like, I'm really trying to get more estate planning business and learn this. And I've had notaries I've met that are clearly very new, and I've had them do multiple signings with me, and I don't let them go alone because I know they're newer. I want to work with them. And really, I'm more than happy to hold their hand. So it's not a matter of expertise or looking like you know what you're doing. It's a lot more, what can I do to please your clients? What can I do to make this situation good for you? That's really what I'm looking for. And another thing that actually really calls to me is I love it when notaries have kind of like a business partner. So sometimes like a husband-wife or wife-wife or whatever, to me, that sounds like if I have a signing Tuesday at 5 p.m., I'll call my person. And if they can't make it, they can just turn around and be like, hey, wife, can you make this one? And I've now just called 2 notaries with one phone call, right? So I love that. It makes it super easy. So that's another thing. If you have that in your wheelhouse, if you don't, that's okay too. But I also know that sometimes people do that with, again, different counties. Like, again, here in LA and Orange County. Okay, my friend, we split fees or something like that. And so whatever. I don't care what your arrangement is. If you guys are working together and cover more territory, awesome. It makes my life easier.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jolene, for your time and answering all these questions. Still helpful, and I hope a lot of you guys all gained value from this. This is an interesting one. Stephanie asks, before you use Notary Pin, did you find it hard to find a notary?
So not necessarily. I mean, the internet's an amazing thing, right? So I did estate planning way back before the internet, really. And then I left, and then I came back. And so it's a very different ball game now because the internet makes things so easy. So I forget when I first started, one of my first notaries I found off, I don't even know where, maybe Thumbtack or something. She was very entrepreneurial. So she ended up holding a notary conference. I ended up meeting tons of notaries. And so I just kind of had this exponential notary database almost right away. It was great. And then I met Jonathan. And so, so then I've used Notary Pin, which is also great because, again, guys, the more territory I can cover and know people, the better. Because, again, since I practice virtually, I literally have clients in like north of Sacramento, in San Diego, in LA, out in the desert region, Palm Springs, whatever. I mean, they're all over California. So I do need notaries everywhere. And I mean, that doesn't mean I've met them in person when I was doing like the conference, but then when I do stuff like for example, with Notary Pin, you guys are very spread out. So it's super helpful.
And I have to say, Jolene, you are like definitely different from all the other attorneys. You network with notaries a lot. And I remember when I first followed your Instagram page, like a ton of notaries you were friends with. And I was just like, oh, wow, she's like already got her network of notaries. And so it's amazing.
Yeah, and I used to be a notary, so I do actually. Back when I did estate planning before, I decided not to renew it for this time, but for a variety of reasons. But I do know what you guys go through. I've done it, so yeah, it's I think helpful for me too because I do know, what you guys might question or have problems with and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But yeah, definitely connect with me on Instagram and don't just follow me, say hey. So then that way I actually know who you are and then follow you back. If you want that. If you don't want me to follow you back, just follow me and I won't follow you back. It's okay. But because I know some people are like, oh, I don't really, I have an Instagram, but it's not really for my business. That's cool. But if you actually want me to follow you back and actually kind of get to know you and like see where, I can help you in the future or you can help me in the future or whatever, definitely say hey.
Yeah. It's a relationship thing. This is all it is. You're just trying to build relationships and you can do it virtually and digitally and online. So thank you. I don't want to take up any more of your time. This has been wonderful. And I thank you so much for coming on. I so appreciate it.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful evening. Everybody, you guys have a great evening and a good weekend. Take care, everybody. We're signing off. Have a bling evening. Bye, guys.